Please get ready for the passage. Sir, I am extremely grateful to all those honorable members who have participated in this discussion and made a number of very valuable suggestions. Mr. Chavan started the debate by raising the issue of globalization and liberalization. This is the theme which has been reiterated by a number of honorable members of this House. Sir, when we took office in March 1998, in our first incarnation, we did not get a clean slate to write upon. There was a lot which was already written on that slate. There were international obligations, international treaty obligations which had to be honored. Governments come and go, but many of the obligations, especially international obligations, continue to subsist. The most potent instrument of globalization or the new form of globalization is supposed to be the WTO. I was a member of this house in those days. I remember a number of occasions when, along with other colleagues in this house, I raised issues regarding the Uruguay round of negotiations. But the then government did not pay any heed to my repeated alarms. The result was that Dunkel proposals were imposed on us. The Dunkel proposals were so dangerous that I remember, out of sheer agitation, I travelled 250 kilometers on a bicycle with some 200 friends of mine from my party. We stopped at every village, every marketplace, and every town on the way and told the people about the danger of the proposals formulated by Mr. Dunkel. But the new WTO treaty was signed and we assumed those obligations. Today, we have been accused of removing quantitative restrictions. We have been accused of opening up the economy of the country for imports from other countries. Sir, a reference has been made to 714 items from which quantitative restrictions have been removed this year. I would like to say that neither the government of the day nor the trade and industry of this country went into the details of the obligations that we were assuming. Nobody really studied as to what the implications of the WTO treaty would be. Today, we are left with that obligation. I would like to mention how we are trying to tackle it. So far as the removal of quantitative restrictions is concerned, it is not a sin which has been committed by this government for the first time. There have been many occasions when these quantitative restrictions were being removed. But while we are removing the quantitative restrictions, it is not that we are completely unmindful or ignorant of the impact that it might have on the Indian industry, especially the small scale industry and the Indian agriculture. Let me hasten to add that because we are aware of this problem and because it is a policy of the government that we shall protect both the Indian industry and the Indian agriculture and that we shall protect the interests of the Indian economy, we have already taken a number of steps in order to be able to do so. Sir, I would like to take the House into confidence and say that customs duty on all agricultural, horticultural, chicken, meat, and dairy produce was taken to the peak rate in this year's budget across the board. Sir, there is fair competition and there is unfair competition. Unfair competition takes place when goods are dumped into this country. I would like to take the House into confidence and say that despite a somewhat laborious process that we have in this country of imposing anti dumping duties, we have so far imposed anti dumping duties in about 105 cases, besides the safeguard duty, which is also applicable in respect of certain items. Sir, it cannot be said that we have been found wanting in terms of action as far as protecting the domestic industry and domestic agriculture is concerned. I would like to once again reiterate that whenever we receive a complaint that any sector of our industry or any sector of our agriculture is being affected adversely by imports, we will be taking this step. Now, as far as globalization is concerned, our policy will continue to be to integrate with the rest of the world. It will be our policy to protect the interests of this country and not take any steps which will compromise the interests of this country. Now, I come to the second important issue which has been raised by a number of our colleagues cutting across party lines in this House, and that is the issue of the 11th Finance Commission. Sir, we are all aware that the Finance Commission is constituted every 5 years under the provisions of the Indian Constitution. The framers of the Constitution decided that there must be an independent body which will decide on the very sensitive issue of devolution of central funds, central taxes to the states, and the horizontal distribution of that devolution among the states. So basically, what the Finance Commission decides is in regard to how much of the central taxes should be devolved to the states and how the monies thus available should be distributed among the various states.